You know, the Jallianwala massacre has been told many times in the past, but we wanted to tell you a new facet of this. What we are saying is that it's a conspiracy, it was a pre planned massacre. This was a one way to teach India a lesson. If you were to look at what is there in the public domain, and if you were to Google even a character called Hansraj, which is there in episode 1, you will realize that there was a police informer. And what we're saying is that, look, this is a conspiracy. And you know, nowadays there is this entire aisle in bookshops called historical fiction. And so that's really, this is based on fictitious characters about an event that did happen. So I think when we are making something, as long as in Mirja, I said it was based on Mirja's life, I had to take the permission of the family and I had to be responsible and respect what they went through.
Thank you for taking out the time. It's a pleasure to speak to you ahead of what promises to be one of a really engaging show. There are so many things to talk about. I have so many questions for you, but yeah, we have a very limited slot, so I'll dive right in.
I'll plug it in right now. The Waking of a Nation coming on Sony Live on March 7th.
Absolutely. Yes. So let's dive right in, sir. First of all, is this not a story that should have been told 50 years ago and perhaps more times over and over again? Why has it taken this long for this to come about?
Well, you know, the Jallianwala massacre has been told many times in the past, but we wanted to tell you a new facet of this. What we are saying is that it's a conspiracy. It was a pre-planned massacre. This was a one way to teach India a lesson. And it wasn't, of course, General Dyer is completely at fault and blame, and it is a big crime. But whose hand was it? And that's why even on our poster, we see a hand. And what we're saying is that General Dyer was just a puppet, and that there was a puppeteer, there was a ringmaster who was there to planning this. And if you look up everything that we have, I mean, it is a show inspired by true events. It's a fictitious show. There's a lot of it is fiction, a lot of it is based on a true event. But why we're saying it's inspired by? Because if you were to look at what is there in the public domain, and if you were to Google even a character called Hansraj, which is there in episode 1, you will realize that there was a police informer. And what we're saying is that, look, this is a conspiracy.
Absolutely, because why I asked the question right at the outset was, I mean, there's this one statistic that cannot stop to amaze me. In the UK, they produce over 40 films or shows or series about World War II every year. Every year. And of course, we've made films about Gandhi, few of them about Bhagat Singh, Jallianwala Bagh. We have, but I mean, there are so many stories waiting to be told, but we simply don't seem to make them.
Well, watch The Waking of a Nation on March 7th on Sony Live. We've made one. No, I don't know. I think we've made a lot. I didn't know about this 40, sort of on World War II. I'll tell you, when we were casting our British actors, 12 of them flew down from London, they did not know about the massacre itself. And there's a lot of it about what happened to us by the British Raj, which has not been taught in their history in any case. So I'm happy at least that we are making films and shows about something that we perhaps did not know was part of our history.
Absolutely. Also, now history itself, it has always been contested field. It's never been a field where there have been easy answers or even easy ways to approach to look for answers. And history, especially in the context we live in today, can be weaponized. So are there any trepidations before you even approach a subject like this about how it could be received? And because people are bound to perhaps approach the series with a certain bias.
Well, first, we've said very clearly it's inspired by true events. We are not making a documentary. We're not making it historical. Though, of course, they say history is written by the victor. And guess who? Winston Churchill said that. So some of what our history itself, and nowadays there is this entire aisle in bookshops called historical fiction. And so that's really, this is based on fictitious characters about an event that did happen. So I think when we are making something, as long as in Mirja, I said it was based on Mirja's life. I had to take the permission of the family and I had to be responsible and respect what they went through. Here, I'm not basing it on any real character except for General Dyer or Michael O'Dwyer. And so I think when people see it, they'll understand the difference in my approach to what I'm making over here.
Now, about Jallianwala Bagh itself, of all the events, say perhaps let's say from 1900 to 1947, that perhaps hits us on an emotional level like nothing else. There is something so painful about that memory that people from our generation, people from today, we can't possibly not have a very special place for a very traumatic event. So, about the event itself, what about it fascinated you? Why did you want to look at this particular time in history and not others?
So the show really is about racism. It's about colonialism.
Yeah,
I decided to take this event because I've dedicated it to the people who lost their lives. Also, the show is dedicated to the people who lost their lives. And we don't know right now. We remember General Dyer's name, but we don't remember any of the people who lost their lives. And so in episode 4, you'll see that we've used some of the archival, sort of, how should I say, papers that are there in the public domain, and their names we've used. But having said that, I don't show the massacre. Uh, and we've done it in a very dignified way, a respectful way. I've show the soldiers coming in, but I do not show what happens. That happens in the commission. I show what happens to the people and their family members. And it's really a story about 4 friends, youth, and we know that Taruk Raina is part of it, Nikita Datta, Sahil Mehta, Bhaushin Singh Sani. It's really about 4 people, youth of that time, their hopes, their ambitions, their dreams, and then being caught up in a situation where their lives get affected and destroyed.
absolutely. Because yeah, it's evident from the even from the trailer and from what we've seen on the show that it is these four young friends who are investigating this essentially and uncovering what happened. So, was that a conscious choice to look at it from a different perspective and not look at it from, say, survivor or someone who lost their life or the perpetrator's
Well,
perspective?
it's looking at it from all these perspectives. When you see the show, it will look at it from all these perspectives. It will look at it from the friends, survivors, people who died, people who actually did the brutality and the massacre. At the same time, it looks at it from people, some of them who did their duty. So it looks at it at different layers and levels.
So, because ultimately, this is fairly, I mean, one of the things we love about cinema is ordinary people doing extraordinary things, right? And this is one of those cases.
Actually,
So,
it's an underdog story. It's a story of one man, Kantilal Sani is his name. And he's a person who thinks his entire journey is from going from a suit to a dhoti. And if you look at the poster, he's blindfolded by the British flag. He thinks ke Angrez dil ki bhi gore hai. And he's somebody who then becomes Indian. So it's really an underdog story about a man who takes on the British Empire.
also, again, slightly moving away from the series itself and looking about the event, why do you think even over a century later, why have these scars not healed yet? Why do we almost relive these painful memories? And why have it's been a long time?
Well, there is a cliche saying that says history repeats itself. Uh, and one way for us to make sure that history does not repeat itself is by remembering what happened to us. And I think that therefore the show really speaks about racism, prejudice, the color of your skin. How is it that this happened to us? And how, like, there is a statistic or a thing, a quote that we put in the front of episode 1, which says, did you know that Great Britain somewhere in the world, there is a country that celebrates its independence from Great Britain once every 7 days. And so that means they have come and they've conquered over 52, 56 countries, 54 countries. And
Yeah.
it's shocking that there is a country that is celebrating independence. And at the end of the show, we tell you all those countries, we show their flags. How is it that that island was able to come across and actually conquer so many people, and including us, and from somebody that was an East India company that then came and became part of the British Raj. So I think that that's something which we should all, remember, so that part of the world, sort of also remembers that this is what happened, and let's hope it doesn't happen again. And it's also a story about insaf. It's a story about justice. It's a story where what we're asking for in the commission, the characters ask for justice.
Absolutely. And Ram sir, you have to give us, I mean, it was such a powerful idea, the pen versus the sword, the thought behind this, and what what compelled you to use this as a symbolic way to make your point.
Shantanu Srivastav and Chaturjit Nath were my co-writers.
Mhm.
Obviously, you are a journalist also. You also understand the importance of the pen. You understand the importance of words. You understand what do they say? Sticks and stones can break your bones, but words
Yes.
can what? Can never hurt you. That is so wrong. That is so wrong. Words can never hurt you. We are hurt by words all the time. The power of the word, especially of the written word, is, as we have seen in everything that we have read, and all the books that we continue reading, that's like there's no greater power than the written word.
Also, now about the series itself, when you are, because ultimately, like you mentioned earlier, you're not making a documentary. This is a series meant to be engaging and interesting. So when you deal with a
No,
subject that is,
and can be interesting and engaging. We've seen some great documentaries,
yes,
but they look at it with a very, very different way of, there's a certain responsibility that comes with that. And over here, there is a different responsibility.
I appreciate that. I only meant to say that perhaps the intention is not to make something very dense and dry, and you want.
Well, I hope that there is a certain density that is also there. I think that, in advertising, they used to tell me, Ram, your work is so layered. It took me a long time to sort of understand, what does that word mean? Why do you say that my work is layered? And then I understood that what they're really saying is that it reaches different parts of your body. So that I presume is what density is, right? Which is when it reaches, I'm hoping that it'll reach not just your head, but obviously not just your heart, but it'll
Yes,
also.
yes, absolutely. But also at some stage, fair to say that there is an endeavor to perhaps package it as, if not, I mean, it'd be very not called a thriller, but package it in
No,
a.
no, please, it is a thriller. It is a dramatic thriller. There is no
Yeah.
question about it. It's an investigation. It's about a man who's trying to prove that there is a crime that has happened. There is a murder that has happened. And that Hatyakand, that massacre that has happened, he's out to prove. And in fact, we've told you already in the trailer who's done it. So it's not a who done it, but it's
Yeah.
they say. So I read somewhere that the difference between a crime story and a thriller is that a crime story is a who done it, but as a thriller is you want to know what happens next. And so in the first 10 minutes of the show, I tell you what who it is. Obviously, we all know who it is. It is the British government. It is the Raj at that time. So now the question is, how will this man, played by Taruk Raina, how will he prove what happened? And वो ट्रेलर में भी हमने कहा है, आप साबित कैसे करोगे? और जो शो जो है वो थ्रिलर है पक्का. इसमें लाइक आई कीप सेइंग, इसमें कुछ है, ड्रामा है, इमोशन है, रोना भी है. It is a tragedy. So what happened to us? So it's really all of that. I do want to make it so that I do make it worth your time. Everything that I've made so far, Um, and sometimes, there is an author whose name is Patricia Highsmith. She wrote
Hmm.
the Tally, and she wrote crime and thriller because it allowed her to speak about many other things while doing the thriller. So when I'm doing Nirja, I'm giving you the Mahamrityunjay mantra. When I'm giving you Arya, I'm giving you the Bhagavad Gita. Over here, I'm giving you Kabir. There are 4 songs in it, which is also part of the soul and the mitti of our land. And so there's many things that I'm allowed to do because I'm also keeping you edge of seat as to what happened next.
I'm just about running out of time, but I have to ask a couple of quick ones. Could you just briefly tell us about the cast, how you actually chose this particular set of actors and what they brought to the table?
So we have 4 young actors who've been cast correctly through an audition process. Abhimanyu Ray is our casting director. We've tested over 200 people for Tarok Raina's role. He's got it on merit. And this is these are all actors you have seen before, but I think this will be their big breakout kind of moment, certainly for Taruk. And I'm very happy if I was to have worked with any of them. If I was to be told, would you choose somebody else? I would not choose anybody else. Again, these are the 4. And thanks to Sony Live for supporting that they're the right age and the right cast. To Shavato, who's been part of this journey for a long while. Thank you to Danesh to really supporting us. So I think that it is a story about the youth, and I'm happy that we could cast it with its right honesty.
Sir, I hope I have a lot more time to speak to you very soon about the series. Once it's out, we can uh, dissect it and speak about it a lot more. But thank you so much for your time today. Pleasure speaking to you, sir.
Bye.